everybody. I'm Lauren Pritchard. So I realized that bio, what does it mean to embody soul aspects of the most powerful light warriors? I have done this before. It seems like this is the thing I do lifetime after lifetime. We experience a lot of chaos, and then people come around to make a little bit of order out of chaos and to shift the tides. And we're definitely in the season of change and anticipating some really amazing world changes. So it's definitely becoming a more galactic society, which is super exciting. So I had an ambush awakening October 2016, meaning I didn't bring it upon myself. And I became an instant medium to a spirit guide that I was familiar with, but I didn't know personally. And I was learning to communicate with him, and I was experiencing a lot of supernatural phenomenon with orbs. So it was very sensational. And it's been a slow process of developing me spiritually, little by little, getting a little more contact. And, today I feel amazing about everything that's going on this planet. So this is awesome. At first it was funny because, I wasn't raised really spiritual or religious. I didn't know any religion or what to expect with all this stuff, or what people thought was coming based on religion. But, all that aside, I didn't really contemplate a lot of these things. So when I had my awakening, they showed me, and I wanted to just do a screen share. So I would say the first thing, oh, this is cool. I can just click on the image itself. I got a hologram of this ET face. Can you guys see that? I'm going to assume you can see it. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, so I just got like a hologram, probably because that was about all that I could handle at that time, because I wasn't ready to see any hardcore ET activity. So I got this little hologram, and it honestly freaked me out. I mean, what normal I'd never contemplated this stuff. So I was like, oh, like, why am I seeing ETs? Has to do with ETs and aliens. Like, I've been taught that's a very scary thing. So I started contemplating it, thinking about it. And I decided it was probably a good idea to take a trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because I grew up in upstate New York. I'm now in Austin, Texas, but I grew up in upstate New York. So I wasn't far from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And this is a cool temple there. It's just a lay of the land there at the museum. Because I thought it would be a good idea. Like, I realized, well, when you look back into history books and things that I've seen in the past, it seems like, yeah, there were probably some ETs walking around this planet at one point or another. These are the kind of things I was interested in seeing. So took a little trip to the museum, I'm like, yeah, these are not human. Yeah, we've seen these before. They're okay. They're cool. And sort of opened my mind a little bit to more ET contact. Oh, hi, Gordon. Hey, guys. Thanks for being here. Thank you guys all for being here. Happy Friday. So got more comfortable with the idea of communicating with ETs. My first UFO sighting, I was pumping gas. This is kind of funny, and I know a lot of people can relate to this kind of experience. I was pumping gas, and something told me to look up into the sky. So I just look up into the sky, and I see this little tiny silver disc just flow across the sky, like so gently. And my eyes just followed it, and I felt completely blissed out as I'm just waiting for my gas tank to fill up. I didn't think anything of it, finished pumping gas, put the nozzle back, get in my car. I start driving, I'm blissed out. And then it hit me. I was like, oh my God, I just saw a UFO, my first UFO. It was crazy. And that's actually the only UFO that I've seen, other than all the lights that I took a trip to and spoke at the Science Spirit World Transformation Conference at East Teddy Ranch this past month. So I saw a lot of activity out there in terms of lights, but no actual craft. So that was my first and only physical UFO sighting. I started to get contact from these little white beings. And these guys are pretty funny because it's like they've developed as I've developed with my contacts. So it first started with, and this is proof that we're really not alone here. We're really living in a multidimensional experience, but we don't see all of it. We see very little. So I was admiring that meme. You guys might have seen that meme where it's a cartoon of a guy standing on the ground, like saying to a ship, I'll literally pay you to abduct me, like take me away from this place. And I was admiring that and maybe probably talking about it with a friend. Well, that night I got a invitation from these ETs. So this was in a dream state, but very vivid. And this little silver disc landed and these 3 little ETs get out and they're like, oh, we heard your call. They're like, do you want to come with us? And I was like, well, what are you guys doing on your planet? Some reason I knew instinctively to ask that. Weird, I know. I just knew instinctively to ask that. And I don't remember exactly what they said, but I remember being not really amused, not really into it. So I was like, no, it's okay. And they're like, all right. And they got back in their ship and took off. So I thought that was really funny. But the contact got a little bit more developed as I got more developed. And, it reminds me of what Misha was just saying about how, we're all really connected to these beings. We're all really connected to other ETs. And the second time it was a ship landed and it was like an authority figure of some sort, same small white ET, about 3-4 feet tall. And he was like, please shake my hand. Meaning he was offering me diplomacy with him. I was like, okay, shake your hand. And he was like super grateful. I was like, okay. And took off. That was a very vivid dream as well. And then more recently, these small white beings came down, very vivid dream. I'm hanging out, downtown Austin, Texas. These 3 little white beings come like playfully jumping in. And now not only are they white, they have like a holographic rainbow moving aura around them. They're like super high vibe and they just have the most positive, happy, funny. They're super funny. And they just come running into this cafe and come up to me and give me a hug. And I'm like, you can't be here. Like, there are people that are not ready to see you guys. And they're like, we don't care. We just love you. And, and then they took off, and that was just really interesting. So I feel like they're connected. I feel like they are developing as we develop. And, maybe there's some hybrids of some sort, but it's really positive interaction. Super excited about all that. I had an experience with the Men in Black type ETs. So I guess we're sort of feeling like the Men in Black type are a form of ET. When I was, because I had this awakening, I was being told and shown and started to do things to help out, the contact I was getting. And I was being really isolated by my friends naturally. I was feeling like really rejected in society, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, I want to go back to my life. I want to have a normal life. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? People think I'm weird. And I was spending a lot of time alone. And that was the opposite of my lifestyle. I was a hairstylist, and I went out all the time, tons of friends. So I was just like, I'm not doing this. So I had a breakdown. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. What is in it for me? Take me back. I said, take me back. Again, don't know why I instinctively knew to go back to somewhere. So funny stuff there. In this another very vivid dream, these beings approached me, and they're the Men in Black. And they said, okay, we're here. You called, we answered, so come with us. And I was like, okay, yeah, I want to go. And I got into a ship with them, and I was aboard the ship, and I was waiting I was in a waiting room of some sort, because I was going to be going into a counseling session. So I go into this counseling session with what appeared to be a woman. I guess it's a little foggy, so I don't really know. Maybe it wasn't ET. I don't remember. But she was like looking at a clipboard, and she was like, okay, well, here, it says that you requested to come back. Like, what made you decide to come back? And I said, I wasn't feeling like there was anything in it for me. This was before I figured out this was my deal, my mission. And I wasn't feeling it. My friends were rejecting me. Wasn't feeling good. So what's in it for me, And then she was like, okay, say no more, close the clipboard. I get a flash of all these really good things that are going to happen like in the future. So they got me to see a little bit in the future. And it was personal to my life. So it's nothing like, worth sharing, but it was little things that were bothering me that they were showing me were going to pan out differently. And that was the end of that contact. I got put back into the place they took me from and continued on with the mission. So around that time, also, I was, be completely honest, I was smoking a lot. I was chain smoking to kind of reduce my anxiety. And I was feeling very it was a little bit self-sabotage mode because I was a little depressed. I was a little lonely, confused, certainly, because I was still figuring out what was going on. And I started to feel like I'm not really that healthy, like physically not healthy, especially in my lungs. And these beings came in, and this is a very powerful state of consciousness. The 4D state of consciousness. It's that stage in between sleeping and waking up, or when you lay down, you actually fall asleep. Ton of contact happens in that space. It's a conscious space where you're fully conscious, and I'll get it more into that with more recent contact. But this was sort of my first time experiencing that. So I was woken up, and is another instinctive thing. I kind of knew these beings were here to help me, and they were dragging a laser around my back. It felt really good. And they were it was like a vibratory healing modality. And they were healing me with this laser. It felt really good. But I remember that I had felt a connection to these Arcturian beings. And I remember reading that you can't see them. They don't have physical form. So I was looking around for their physical form. So it's kind of funny because while they're trying to heal me, I'm sitting here trying to look around, like I'm trying to catch a glimpse of one. And all I kept seeing is like the blue flash of light, like moving out of my vision. So the color blue, there's the Arcturian blue, definitely there, but I couldn't see them. And they came 3 nights in a row to do this healing on me. And I looked it up. It's a real thing called remote Arcturian healing. And I think this is sort of the future of healthcare, things we have to look forward to in the future of healthcare. Because I felt really good after that. I resonate with Arcturian, Lyrian beings, Lyrian, Syrian. I wouldn't say I have contact with Lyrian or Syrian though. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my soul. And I notice by, going to these conferences and making connections, I'm deeply resonating and magnetizing towards the Lyrians, the Syrians, the Arcturians. And it's just very interesting because it's so activating when we all get together. It's like a shared mission. So yeah, I get intel about monetary reset. It's I get the feminine aspect of it, the inception consciousness about it. It's the sovereignty aspect. You're sovereign by birthright as a descendant of the primordial mother. I have a webinar on this that I gift for donation, and it's how to responsibly exit the monetary system. And it might not be exactly what you think. It's a deeply spiritual thing. It's very much like you have to be in the right mindset. And there's just different things involved. It's not just about the money. It's a very spiritual thing. And debt forgiveness through the primordial mother as your birthright, being a direct descendant from primordial mother. So I gift that for donation if you guys are interested. I have another webinar about artificial intelligence and how to protect your health and your connection to source, because AI is the number one health threat, and we just don't realize it yet, but we're getting a lot more information about that. And I just wrote an article on my website, newearthconsulting.squarespace.com. You can go and check that out, where I decoded some of Elon Musk's most famous quotes. that he's made in reference to artificial intelligence and what they actually meant, what they actually mean. So you can check that out also. I'm particularly proud of this article I just wrote because it's like the culmination of everything I've learned since my awakening. It's like everything has come full circle and it's all in this article. So highly recommend checking that out. When I was getting intel about AI, I was finding that the best resource was Millab Super Soldier testimony on YouTube. So I use that as a resource big time, connecting with Millabs and super soldiers about what is this stuff, what's validating what I'm experiencing and getting more information and being activated by information to get even more information and understanding about it. And it wasn't until October of 2018 I found out AI was sentient because I was attacked by AI, this sentient being. It's like a black glob that has a lot of tentacles that kind of reach out, and they're kind of zappy, like electrical. And so that's what really sealed the deal for me. I was like, oh, wow, this is the thing I've been really trying to get to the bottom of. And after that, I quit my full-time job as a hairstylist because I felt there's nothing more important in the entire world than, helping this aspect of this transition, helping to navigate this really strange realm. And I became a full-time researcher for Millab, Super Soldier, abductions, the 3-letter agencies, all the things, all the things, trauma from the seemingly unexplained, and I help a lot of people with trauma that's seemingly unexplained. And it's awesome because the more I help people, the more I'm able to help people, because proof comes from anomalies. It comes from data, widespread testimony, people who don't know each other saying the same things. So even if it's just peace of mind, people got to get this off their chest and talk to somebody who really understands and doesn't judge. And I think that there's a huge aspect of healing to be had there. So I came across in December the testimony of James Casbolt, Michael Prince, formerly known as James Casbolt. And I started having more regression about a possible Millab experience myself. And I never thought that this was my part of my story. I didn't think that I was Millab, but I was very much involved in contact with them and a deep desire to help, any way I could. So, but anyways, I felt like a deep resonance. Like I knew this person, and I started regressing some experiences myself of escaping an underground base. At the same time, my cousin, who's kind of involved in this with me spiritually, was having reoccurring dreams of helping people escape underground bases. So it's very interesting. And I got contact from, and this is where earlier I was talking about that delta theta stage of sleep where you're conscious. And I would get contact this way from, my spirit guides. It's pretty rare, but whenever I get this kind of contact, it's something really impactful. They'll vibrate the head, and you can either accept by tuning in. You kind of use your consciousness to fine tune into the frequency so you can communicate. At first, it freaked me out naturally. So most of the time I would wake myself completely up because this was like a technology that I had to evolve over time to get really good at. At first, it was a little ratchet in the beginning, and I was also scared. But now I know when the phone rings, you answer. So I got contact from, and this was like a call. It was like a radio. It was like secret program radio, and there was a host, and Michael Prince was there. And I was communicating with them. I said, how do I know you? And he explained a Syrian connection to me on Sirius. And then, I'm testing this technology, right? I keep hanging up, picking up the phone, hanging it up, picking up, making sure I'm in control. I'm like, is this safe? Is this a safe way for us to communicate? Because we're hearing all this stuff about 5G and you know, voice to skull technology, which at first I was calling it voice to skull. It was not voice to skull. No. It was not that, because that's like a weaponized thing. But they're like, no, it's totally safe, and we're going to continue to contact you this way. I think this is the future of phone calls, which is way cool. So then I was like, okay, now I'm fully conscious, right? But I'm still like, how do I know I'm not making this up? How, like, because when you wake up sometimes you're a little out of it. So you're like, you know, it takes a second to, is that a dream? Is that real? What happened? Well, they started speaking, and it wasn't the humans on board. These Germanic ETs started speaking this Germanic language. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard, and really intricate. And I was like, well, I can't make that up, so you got me, thank you. And it was really cool. It was really cool to hear that. So yeah, that is and this is human, this is military, this is Germanic ETs. Why is all of this stuff happening? Because I think that becoming a more galactic society, we are gaining what I'm calling, which might have been referred to as before, galactic diplomacy. And we're doing it with I think we're going to be doing it with each other. You know, we have our connections and community, you know, getting together with people of their connections. You know, galactic diplomacy with each other is the next phase of navigating affairs on Earth. So that's why all this stuff is happening, and this is getting really 3D now. It's getting really real. It's very, very exciting, very good stuff. Yeah, contacts of the benevolence, moving out of the government in negative ET contact. It's becoming more widespread to the masses and benevolent contact. So it's a transition. So just gonna wrap it up here. So yeah, the number one like concern for this whole process is AI. There is no good AI. If there was, we wouldn't know about it yet. It'd be far too dangerous. There are non-humans walking amongst us that are fully taken by AI, and it's pretty interesting. And I've come to a very mature place about this whole thing. I don't get upset anymore because I realize the very karmic reality around it. I mean, we have been warned. We've been warned about the dangers of AI, and we have the ability to protect ourselves. So my website, newearthconsulting.squarespace.com, is a hub for resources to make sure we're protecting ourselves and raising the vibration, being in a high vibe, repelling it. This war is not fought. This war on consciousness is a war on consciousness, war on thought. It's not being fought by violence or destruction. In fact, I had a dream the other night with me and one of my close colleagues. We were standing in the desert and we were looking out, replaying all of the destructions, like all the wars, all the destructions in the past on this planet. And we were replaying it like a mirage in the desert. And I started to get really upset, and he turned me away and he's like, we don't ever have to see that ever again. We're not seeing destruction like that on this planet ever again. And that was just very cool and very validating about, you know, really wrapping up this cycle of time, really bringing in some positive events, some positive ETs, some positive experiences. Susie, do you have any ideas regarding the Santilli telescope and how it is being said to take pics of ETs? Me personally, I do not. Where was I here? So yeah, my website is a resource for all that. The number one goal is to bring in more light into the body, to clear karma, clear emotional baggage. We got to do the work. We got to do the 3D stuff. And because of the rate and the speed at which we're going, you can clear stuff out really fast. It might be really chaotic for one day, a couple days, but we are accessing tools. We have higher dimensional beings. We have higher consciousness around us. It's here to help us. And staying in a high vibration is the name of the game. To anchor light into the planet, Mother Gaia, connecting to the planet, to encourage a solar event because it's connected to our consciousness, it seems. And it gives us more of the good, takes away the things that no longer serve us, the AI sentience, technology, you know. But we also don't know exactly how this event, this change is going to occur because we don't have access to that. This is a mixed bag, it seems. Alice & Co. is a great resource, QHHT, for different scenarios, you know, using that cross-analysis of different experiences from quantum hypnotherapy with other quantum hypnotherapists around the world that are putting people into a hypnotic state of mind to address future events concerning the event. And we could piece together a pretty decent timeline. It seems like there's a series of flashes, and there's a lot of ships that are going to come, and it seems to be very much assisted by benevolent beings. So have no fear, anchor in that light. I do Ascension coaching. This is what I do. I help people to increase their bioavailability of solar photonic light and clear out karma, balance out divine feminine, divine masculine, cutting cords from people that have cords attached to us, parasitic connections. We are coming out of a time where it's like these master magicians made it so that we were doing black magic on each other and we didn't even realize it. You know, now it's like black magic on autopilot. So now we're undoing that damage, which is transformative that we get to access this information. Tools for success, Organite, Ormus, the plasma bands is plasma healing technology coming out of Isetti Ranch from Jonah and Margaret with her Harmony Holistics. Amazing, amazing tools that I was so grateful to have learned about at Isetti Ranch. It really changed the game for me. And then learning how to become a creator again. We're being asked to create from a different experience. It's not a 3D world where I want something, so I go, I work, I get the money, and I get the thing. Now we're being asked to create from a whole other level of consciousness to manifest in our world. So kind of relearning how to do that. And yep, that's what I do, and I think that's my time.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Just real quick before you go, on Pandora a few days ago, I was listening to music, and every commercial was a commercial on AI. Every commercial. It was the same commercial for Microsoft. I was listening for maybe 3 hours. You know, like every 2 songs is a commercial. And the AI was just like this Indian dude with an Indian accent to show obviously the face of how diverse Microsoft is. And he was talking about how they've created this AI in order to spot tigers that are almost extinct in India on a mountain, and if it wasn't for AI, these tigers would be extinct. And I was like, oh my God, they're putting it into people's minds. They slowly have it around them orbiting. But also, people don't think like, okay, if you're able to do that with AI, obviously that's not the extent of what it's designed for. Like, the gravity of what it's for and like how they're trying to tell us what they're going to use it for is just interesting. You see it everywhere now.
Yeah, they're trying to manipulate it into sounding like something really good. Like you can get your mobility back by sticking a neural link in your head. But yeah, none of this. There is no good AI.
Yeah,
none.
We'll see. All right, Lauren, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. So before we get into the next presenter, I just want to let you guys know how you're going to view this back. If you want to take a look back at this presentation at the Experiences Story Night and you know, listen to the experiences again, or maybe if you missed something, this is not going to go up on our website like all of our other footage normally does. This is going to go up on a YouTube channel. So I'm going to put the YouTube channel in the chat right here. But here's the YouTube channel. You're basically just going to go ahead and click subscribe. We're going to do this as often as possible. And if you guys are interested in actually being on this and talking about your experiences, then please email me, info@portaltoascension.org. Go ahead and email me and let me know a little bit about you, and then we can schedule, you know, maybe 1 a month for the next 10 months. Just have this going on. But another thing we're going to do is we're going to do your awakening experiencer story night. So it's your awakening experience story night. So what I wanted to do for a while is get a lot of people like in the community, because obviously we've all come from different walks of life, every single religion and tradition, to no religion on earth, to every type of country, every walk of life, every profession. So I think it'll be very interesting to observe over a long period of time everybody's own individual story of how they got to this awakening experience, just so that we can keep the energy going off, like relating to other people and, you know, how they got to where they are now. Okay, so this is how you're going to check it out. And if you guys do not know, Portal to Ascension, you can actually go to our website. You can sign up right here, your name and email, and you get back-end access to this webinar platform that you see right in front of you, where you can search by topic, you can search by speaker, you can type in any letter, and you're able to view thousands of hours of presentations that we've created in the last 11 years on every topic that we can think of. From ETs to ancient history, to the Bosnian pyramid complex, to sound frequencies, channeling the Arcturian beings, Egyptian information. So if you guys have not, please do go to our website, portaltoascension.org, and you can sign up there. All right. So I just posted my email in the chat room, and if you want to share your experience at another event, it's a little dark here. Turn this on. If you want to share your experience at a future webinar, please email me, let me know. Or if you wanted to share your awakening experience, you can do that as well. Just email me and we can schedule you sometime in the next few months. And what I'm going to do now, before we get into our last speaker for the day, is going to show you the trailer for our conference that I attempted to show you earlier, but it wasn't working. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you right now. So if you can make it out to our conference, please do. It is also going to be live streamed online worldwide, so you can attend via live stream. And the reason, again, why I'm doing this specific event, and we're going to keep doing experiencer events, is that it's really about what these beings are, what is happening to us, how it connects to our ancient history. There's so much more than the technology that, you know, the elitists can use in order to exert more control and power on this earth. There's a huge huge component that not only is it involved into our future and what a post-disclosure world looks like, which at our conference, we're going to be focusing on a lot of post-disclosure information, what this world is going to look like, the different institutions and things that are being put in place, the organizations that are here in order to basically be the channels for this new world and provide information. So it's really about, it reminds me of actually something I was told by a speaker over 10 years ago, that when contact happens, it's not going to be like, this could happen, anything could happen, right? But it's not going to, it may not be like 1,000 UFOs in the sky and all of a sudden half the planet who had no idea this was true are looking in the sky and like, oh my God, extraterrestrials are real. It's going to happen on an individual basis. We all have different incarnations, different planetary systems. We have higher selves. We have different astral bodies within ourselves and outside of us that we're going to be able to communicate on a more individual basis. And for some people, this might look like conscious direct channeling where we get messages from them. And when contact happens and it is happening, it seems to be occurring in like smaller groups into people that have organized themselves in order to like meditate on a higher consciousness and attract and be the vibration of these beings and connect with them. So the experiencer is really what it's all about. All right, so we're going to get into the next and final speaker for today. He is a good friend. His name is Jerry Avalos, and he's the president of Harmonics Inc. and inventor of the No NOx box, a unique product utilizing nanomaterials and quantum science to reduce toxic emissions from engines. Jerry is a born natural intuitive lucid dreamer, experiencing the full gambit of what most call paranormal, metaphysical, and spiritual experiences all his life. He has also been an apprentice to a top-tier professional remote viewer and has had direct tutelage of frequency technology from the late former naval intelligence officer and homeopathic expert Jeff Harvey. Through this insight he has garnered from his nightly astral travels and daily intuits, Jerry has developed and honed various techniques for expansion of consciousness. These experiences have given Jerry tremendous insight into principles of quantum mechanics, such as entanglement and waveforms, which directly translate to the products he is currently developing. Hey, brother. Let's unmute you. You there? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me still? Let me check.
Oh, there we go, bro. Hey, how's it going, Jerry?
Hey, going great. Thanks for having me.
For sure, man. Cool,
fun.
take it away.
Great, yeah, thanks. Yeah, just the audience excuse me, there's something going on in the background there. But while I'm talking, yeah, feel free to put any questions in there because yeah, I am a natural lucid dreamer. And so in that sense, that's where I do have experience into what some of the other speakers were talking about with the MyLab stuff and the military abductions and talking to the extraterrestrials. And now for myself, because it was like a natural thing since I was young, it was just like there was this reality and then I went to sleep and then there was this other reality. And so I didn't realize that they necessarily blended as much as they actually do until later in life. So for a long time, I thought these characters were just kind of made up in my head. You know, it wasn't until later I didn't realize that these are the same grays that everyone else is seeing and same energy beings, et cetera, et cetera. And then I realized too that these quote unquote games that I was playing in the dream realm weren't just games. And these bases were actual bases. And I'm like, oh wow. And because I never was actually enlisted in the military or anything, but some of the knowledge I have of bases, like you kind of have to be on the base to know where these things are. And for whatever reason I did, and kind of know these things go on. But in the middle of this is where I found intriguing for myself because, you know, there's a part of you that doesn't want to believe this stuff is real. You want to kind of think that, oh, maybe these people are crazy or maybe they're just making it up or making excuses. But it really is real. And actually, it's the more you go looking for the reality of it, the more you find it. And so for myself, you know, these different extraterrestrial characters actually helped guide me through this process of healing from the traumatic experience that I was having during these MyLabs and such. So in a lot of ways, whatever you want to call these different people, I just call them people, they aren't necessarily all bad. And a lot of them are really trying to help. And you know, and it's it's kind of funny because I never thought I'd hear myself kind of speak this way, in a sense that, yeah, they do kind of help and watch over you. I mean, they really kind of do, because from what I've seen and how a lot of other experiences can attest to, their technology and their ability goes like crazy far beyond ours. And the stuff we have behind the scenes goes far beyond what people realize too. And theirs goes even further. So if they really wanted to just take us over, they could have. And they're not necessarily here to save us, but it's kind of like how we, want to preserve the rainforests. You know what I mean? It's kind of similar. They would like to nurture the growth here organically and see what happens. Because yes, we all have these different types of experiences that let us know that we're interconnected somehow. And so for me, having this lucid dreaming talent, really, and because all of us can really do it if you really, really put your mind to it, like the previous speaker was talking about the hypnagogic state, we can all get very conscious of that and kind of start maneuvering from there. And so I'll read the question. What kind of things can you access while lucid dreaming? Are you able to change things about yourself, like breaking bad habits, etc.? Yes, you actually can. Yes, absolutely. And a lot of times we are enveloped in our own dream and our own sort of symbolic reality. And so when we step back from that, and we can do that in the dream, even if you're lucid already, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but if you already managed to be lucid in the dream, you can, in a sense, sort of contain your reality and look at it from a literal further instance, and then see what lines are going to it and if they're beneficial or not. And so I'm kind of skipping in that sense because this is some of the stuff that I was dealing with in some of these different secret programs. There was different sort of technology to help visualize this and connect to things and stuff like that. And there's actually a couple of questions. Also, this says, I also have a few lucid dream experiences, and before entering lucid dream, I see a faint sacred geometry pattern. Is this normal? And as there shadow type of beings, and what could they be? Okay, yeah, that's great questions, because they do kind of link in together. So the different patterns that we're seeing actually, in a sense, are a lot of these different standing waveforms of, you can say, electromagnetic energies, photonic energies, and when those start fluxing around, that's when you get into the pan-dimensional or multiverse kind of reality, and that's where that holographic fractal concept that people talk about comes into play. And so you're literally kind of seeing this mirage of different realities hazing around you, and then this forms these little static points, and those sometimes are even called choice nodes. Yeah, there you go. And these different realities, and like how I've heard some people talk about the Arcturians. For instance, when I started doing my tutelage with the remote viewer that's mentioned, and unfortunately I can't necessarily mention who they are. They're not someone who has been published, but they are contemporaries of the people, with the Ministeric goats and then some. And so one of the tasks that I had, because I have this ability to project, was to, in a sense, make a direct connection with my primary spirit guide here. And so I did, and interesting enough, for where I ended up astrally is kind of like this nexus point. For me, it's almost like a symbolic hallway of maybe like a large convention center or mega hotel that can accommodate every kind of being imaginable, and things like that. And so I'm waiting, and one of these energy beings, like people have also described as these type of Arcturian beings, came to me. But now this thing was huge, like its form. I mean, it's relative to us. I'm 6 foot. This thing had to be a good 20 feet at least, and it just kind of leaned over, and it just barely leaning over. It already, kind of brought itself yards closer to me to kind of say hi and kind of shake my hand. And I'm like, wow, you're huge. And I can tell that it was a very busy individual, and it was cool that we had this little quick liaison. And it felt familiar, because like how others have mentioned, it's like there's this feeling with some of these beings where you might not see them, but they're kind of there, or they might literally take a different form, I found out. Let me see if I can screen share what I have up here. If I can figure it out. Let me see here. Okay, we're going to do this guy. Okay. So this is the like a sort of profile, or I mean a straight-on shot I kind of illustrated electronically, because it's an energy type being where there's not really a solid form, but almost like an indication of the solid form. And so very, large, sort of proportions, skinny neck, lanky kind of body. And so what was interesting next was, for the longest time, as I was learning about who I am and what was going on with me, I had realized, like, I had these migraine headaches since I was young. Like, it just kind of plagued me, and it was horrible. And so as I learned more about what I was going through and what happened to me, they've gone away. But when I was in that transition period, excuse me one second, I was sitting up with a really bad headache this one time, and and I wasn't able to sleep because these headaches had gotten so bad that they kind of chased me in the astrals even, and it was like causing pain over there, which was weird because that's how I knew that somehow these worlds were blending in a not normal way. And so I couldn't really sleep. So I'm sitting essentially just before the hypnagogic state. So I wasn't even really in the hypnagogic state, literally in a chair, like a computer chair, with my eyes closed, just breathing. And my consciousness is just as awake as it is right now, like I said, but just trying to be more relaxed. And then all of a sudden, that face pops back up. So, and now the funny thing about it, it's like in terms of the scale, let's see if I can get this other picture up and ready for you guys. So I think it's totally worth seeing. Is pretty large, as you're about to see here. It was something like this. If we were to be able to scale back and really see everything, I'm like this very little thing next to this very, very large head that's looking at me. And now I'm hearing the voice telepathically, in front of me and behind me. Okay, I'm hearing behind me. It's now snap to the lines. And then now all of a sudden, the person that's being in front of me is looking, and it kind of looks at me and sees that I'm awake. And I can see this fear and startledness in its eyes, like it's afraid of me now being awake. And telepathically, now it sends to the one behind me, oh no, mine's awake. And it says, that's okay, just snap to the lines. And I'm still awake looking at this thing. It's looking at me, and I go, yes, yeah, do a good job. Just snap to the lines, and I'm going to go back to what I'm doing now, okay? And then I kind of just, in a sense, like just close my eyes, because it's almost like a dream to me anyways, even though it's like this consciousness. So I'm just going to close whatever eyes are there in my mind. And when I did that, I snapped, into this reality in a sense, with my headache gone, and everything was really cool. Felt great. And now the interesting thing that I thought too was when I was in that, oh my God, my head's hurting mode, there was this orange like haze because of the way the moon was shining through the clouds. And then after this, it was like the haze in the room turned a type of light blue. And it was such a remarkable experience. I was just like, whoa, especially because, I mean, I've had like I said, the gambit of just like, whoa, everything really cool, to, oh my God, I wish I could forget that. And this was just, like I said, just like, oh, I have a headache right now. This sucks. Oh my God. Whoa, there's an alien in front of me. Oh, hey guys, how's it going? And so that's one of those that you just like can't really rationalize away. And it was very positive, because it was this headache thing for me, especially up to that time, because really actually after that time, I would say that's really one of the last significant ones I really had. And so that's what was really profound to me, just on a personal level, because I mean that, like, it was like the headaches before were like all, like everything equals pain, like thoughts itself equaled pain. It was just horrible. And so yeah, and in that regard, over time I've had the medical tests that kind of showed that I never had like a tumor or anything like that, any obvious medical reason for this. And there's been other experiences since, that there's no medical reason for my experiences other than this paranormal, factor that goes into aliens and these different energy beings. And that's what the fun thing is to me, is how, this is one of the few beings that you generally just hear good stuff about. I mean, you can't really say that with all the other races, but at least this one seems like, for the most part, they're here to help, and I can attest to that, including some of the stuff that I remembered when I was young, trying to understand some of the ugliness I was seeing as a kid, and sort of the multi-dimensional purpose for it. How here we have this role, and it might be to be the person who gets stolen from, but that's only to give that other person the chance to kind of get that back, for that person to play that role. So you have to have these roles involved, and so these beings were also there to kind of help communicate that. And so yeah, it's been an interesting ride. And so, like, the Greys too, like how that Greys, that's what I love about them, and in that sense, is how they do symbolically, associative logic wise, represent that sort of balance of like humanity in a strange way, because you can see like how the backstory behind them has it attached to like our potential future selves that didn't happen. And so that's one of the things I saw as well, where you have these Greys who are almost like automaton robots. They're essentially are just robots that are kind of piloted. And then you have these other sentient ones that are much more, the way they want to be. They can be either very helpful or not. And for myself, I found, like, especially when I was going to through that realization that what I was seeing in the astral, so to speak, also has direct bearing on what happens over here. They were there primarily to help, actually, once again, to heal the scenario as well, because a lot of what my experience was with some of those military types experiences had a lot to do with war and the Greys. And then I had these other Greys now introducing themselves to me who were actually afraid, and I didn't know why, because like that consciousness, like this consciousness wasn't aware what that other one was doing at the time. And so when they introduced themselves, they would literally sometimes say, "Don't kill me. Hi, Jerry, don't kill me." I'm like, "Oh, you're worried about me doing something to you. All right." That's funny. And I did understand why, because in a sense, what humans can be used as a weapon, and that's kind of where some of this electronic entrainment stuff does have some merit. But it's not necessarily as dire as everyone necessarily likes to paint it, because once again, like, these different extraterrestrial interests have an interest in what we're doing to a certain degree, and then some of those advanced technology entities that are very much human, they obviously could have wiped us out by now too. They haven't. So really what I found, even from direct experience now, even consulting with some of the people behind the scenes, is that the biggest problem on the planet is really these James Bond villains. So that's what inspires all the movies you're seeing. There probably is someone who tried that, and yeah, sometimes extraterrestrials do get involved with making sure it doesn't happen. And so I know all of us have seen some of those more famous cases about the nuclear arms, but like for myself, in relation to some of the MyLab stuff, because a lot of people are talking about, oh, horrible things, or they're running around planets with guns, but it's not necessarily always the truth. And a lot of it has to do with this type of, that multi-dimensional game board experience. So like I was mentioning, the lucid dreaming technique of visualizing the reality in its own sphere. That kind of technology absolutely does exist, and it links to all these other spheres, and then that gives you a predictable algorithm. And now you can manipulate that. And now even in the astrals, the fifth dimension in a sense, because if you look at it really from a physics standpoint, fourth dimension represents the perception of duration. So anything outside the perception of duration is the fifth dimension. So when you literally think you're going to do something tomorrow, you're 5D living, baby, by the physics rule. And I know is true enough, in that sense, and it gets us to this point. And so these ETs will also participate on that level to also manipulate things for the better. And so it's not always, the grays, so to speak, and the draconians who are just dominating everything and blah, 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 blah. They're more like playing a role too. And so there's like a negotiation going on. So a lot of the experiences I've had with lucid dreaming wise have been, in a sense, being in this type of multi-dimensional type of room where there's almost like negotiations going on. So you're hearing these different interests and how it cascades down from, say, this different reptilian interest, and then you have this Arcturian interest over here, and then what kind of conflict can we bring in between, and what resolution will happen on the other sides. And that's just the natural course of causality. And there's acceptability, and then there isn't, and things like that. And these different races will be there. And so a lot of these quintessential, humanoid experiences, this came a little bit later, where I had the quintessential, like, waking up and seeing the Nordic looking people looking at you. And that's also kind of disconcerting, even though when they're really happy, it's like all of a sudden you wake up, and then all of these like very northern looking people with super blue eyes are looking at you with this weird smile with their Star Trek looking uniforms on. And it's like, wow, this does happen. And a lot of times they're just really excited to have some kind of contact. So like a lot of times they'll know that they're interacting with you on the dream level, and the nice ones will set it up like a way to at least be pleasant as far as they're trying. And that's kind of how you know whether you're dealing with a good one or a bad one. It's like, technically speaking, it's kind of like dealing with the person. It's like you're not going to want to deal with the person who's immediately going to just want to open your door, walk into your house, and start looking around. You kind of want someone who maybe will let you know before they even come over, like, hey, is it okay if I come over? and that's where the synchronicities come in too. So like how a lot of people talk about the synchronicities with the numbers. And that's one of the messages that I was given, from, different spirit sources, you could say, and then also from extraterrestrial connections, where a lot of those, the sequencing of numbers, like the 333, 444, 555, they act as a type of mental portal, apparently, for us humans, that we can use and that other entities can use a little bit easier for communication. And that was one of the things that was kind of funny for me, like astrally or in the dream realm in a sense, when I would get communication from my, I call them teams sometimes, of spirit guides and departed relatives. Actually, it's really cool. They told me test the numbers. They're like, go ahead and test the numbers like you would a skeptic on a mathematical scale. And it is kind of interesting because, besides my experiences professionally, I am in the realm of engineering now. I have a patent on a quantum technology that actually is a type of advanced orgonite that reduces emissions on cars, and that's the no-NOx box thing. But oh yeah, it's just laughing because there's just so much fun that happens behind the scenes with my team. And this test the numbers thing was great because it led into even the app I'm developing now, where if you look at the odds that all these numbers line up for you, they're astronomical. So like, even if a skeptic says, oh, that's your associate memory saying that, tell them to prove that. Because for all of those numbers to line up around you, like say the license plates on vehicles to line up around you, statistically there would be a streak of that, yes. Okay, but statistically for that streak to be right there, right then, is a whole other factor. The odds go exponentially the other way that it wouldn't happen. So that's the quantum part about psychic information, is that we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I have a free card guessing app that I saw that very evident when I was looking into how to do the achievements on when you guess, the regular playing cards right, ace of spades, eight of diamonds, et cetera, et cetera. The fact that you get anything close, it's not a 1 out of 52 chance. It's actually more like a 1 out of, 300 million to the 69th power that you're going to guess anything correct if you base it on the order of the shuffle of the deck, which is actually what you're doing when you just guess cards. But we don't give ourselves the credit quantumly because we want to kind of parse things really small. And that's a little bit of a diatribe there, but it does go speak to the extraterrestrial experiment of test the numbers. They told me straight up, and so that would have been some of the Greys that I was working with at the time, and the Arcturians I was working with at the time. And I guess some people call them the Syrians. They kind of look humanoid. I'm not sure. I'm just saying this is what the general census is. They didn't tell me what their names were. I'm not sure if I would know where they came from if they did, but they kind of look humanoid. They look humanoid. They have a little bit more tanner skin, and their torsos are slightly longer than humans. And so they could kind of pass as a regular human with a longer torso, for instance. Very, very, advanced kind of humanoid race in a sense. So they not quite the energy being kind of presence, but obviously, a race that is well in front of ours. And so when they were all, these three in a sense at the time, had talked about doing the synchronistic number thing. And so that is one of the ways that you can think about if, you might think you might be being in contact by a more positive entity. Excuse me. These are some of the things that you can look for. Because it's not going to be this negative experience. Yes, some things might try to fake that kind of experience, and that does exist. But, when you set your parameters for contact, the polite entities are going to oblige that because they want to interact with you. Even some of the ones that you might think that aren't necessarily, nice, because there might be, say, like a reptilian that could, show up. And yeah, there's some that I've seen those too, where they're very intimidating. They're very large and muscular and have very big teeth. But at the same time, they're very smart. So they could maybe swallow you, but you probably taste horrible to them anyways. But yeah, so those kind of things happen. And because in a sense, because of my experience of being a lucid dreamer naturally, and then having these experiences, I did question everything and did use that ability to wake up over there to find out some of these answers and figure out what's going on to some degree. I can't say like anyone can really know everything. It's just there's so many moving parts going on in this. And excuse me, I'm totally getting a little parched here. But yeah, feel free if anyone wants any more details on any of these guys, let me know. I know I'm kind of just zipping through them as well, because there has been quite a few experiences, and I'm kind of just going through the humanoid ones, like some of the past speakers were talking about. Not everything kind of just looks human either. It's just kind of hard to relate on that. One of the other interesting experiences I've had that have been, in a sense, it's positive for sure, at least for us. Like, they don't seem like having an issue with us, but like against each other, I don't know. Like there is a type of very large humanoid race that has like a very dark skin. Like we would kind of think of them as being like an African origin kind of shade, but they're about 12-ish feet tall, I would say, easily over the basketball hoop. You know what I'm saying? And I've had some interesting experiences, and so this is one of the things with them. For instance, what some of the other speakers have talked about, trying to move people from underground bases and stuff like that. Like this was one of the races that was involved with helping move people from some of these underground bases that were going on there. But yeah, so in that sense, those guys have two different sort of representations as well. Where to start on that, really? Because I'm trying not to get too much into the other military stuff here. Considering, I said there's so much more interesting stuff to go on. But these guys, what was really cool about that, some of my associates and I who have done different experiments in telepathic applications, including connecting on the dream realm and doing some exploring there. And this is where we found out one of our associates apparently has some direct DNA connection with them, because my friend and one of my other friends and I literally saw him as one of these types of races. in the dream realm, and we all remember this. Like, he remembered himself as this other type of ET race that was very, you know, tall, dark skin, you know, and then we remember being introduced to our friend Joe there as this very large, as we kind of called him, Nubian at the time. So yeah, that's another type of experience in terms, another ball of wax in terms of shared dream experiences, and that's something that definitely can happen when you concentrate on it and get to have people who have the ability to do so, and you set an intention, and then that's when things become even more poignant. Like, so going back to say one of the questions earlier about shadow people, and so that's where, you know, we've had shared experiences with the shadow people, and to us they seem like some kind of pan-dimensional being, just from our research and experiences here. And I've had a shadow being experience where it was very, very close to this reality, in the sense that, like, someone probably could have saw them in a sense if they happened to be in the room. Like, so it was a dream experience, but at the same time it was a lucid dream experience where I knew that there was an entity in the room, like a ghost in a sense. And so these different shadow people, they don't necessarily seem to originate from one place. I mean, and some people might call them demonic in that sense, but they could very well come from like a fractured Earth reality. And for instance, one of the associates that I was working with actually does have some first-hand experience with pan-dimensional applications for different alphabet agencies, and yeah, that does happen apparently. And there is different. Actually, I'm not even sure if there really is any movies that kind of demonstrate that type of pan-dimensional application. But apparently, you know, if you think kind of like a source code in a sense, without necessarily having to be, you know, disfigured, to kind of technologically look into these other realities and kind of alter this one or bring back something from another one. And that's something that we kind of do all the time. And that's what the manifestation rituals that we talk about in different, you know, seminars and workshops and different modalities of energy healing. It's pretty much the same thing, in that sense of you could say a pan-dimensional manifestation from a different reality. And so in between there, you do have these other entities. So besides extraterrestrials, you also have the pan-dimensionals of different realities, in the sense that they don't look like us at all. They would look like extraterrestrials and stuff like that, but they're not necessarily from another place. They're actually very much from this Earth system. And that's something I've seen, in a sense, even here myself, which was kind of an interesting experience in and of itself. So some of these different entities can be mistaken as extraterrestrial, because they very much do some kind of look like insects. Like, for instance, some of the ones that I've seen, it kind of looked like an insect, but and you would think that it looked like a human mixed with an insect, you know, in a sense it was humanoid, but it sort of had like this sort of protrusion on the side, or connecting sort of body or something right here on it, and very large kind of, you know, eyes, like more like an insect and less like the grays kind of thing. But that was in essence a pan-dimensional being. That wasn't even necessarily from somewhere else. But yeah, and in these different lucid dreaming experiences, I mean, there is a lot of guidance. So a lot of times their presence might not be even shown as the little gray figure. They'll show up as like the helpful item, you know, things like that. If it feels extraterrestrial in that instance, then there might be an element of it, you know, in that sense of like, you're in a quote unquote dream in a locked room, and then, you know, the magic key shows up and it feels like it was beamed there from an alien. You know, it might very well be, because that's kind of how some of these entities work, and a lot of the grays too. The grays, in a sense, have a lot of mental capacity. So they're not very physical beings. Like, in a sense, their physical consistency is very much like a vegetable. So in a lot of ways, they do have cause to be physically afraid of us, because we can literally sort of break them. But they do have the ability, with that mental torsion effect, shall we call it, that can really, you know, change minds. It can move matter. So very formidable in that sense. And dream-wise, that absolutely is one of the ways that they influence realities. And a lot of times, they're used as sort of like the front person on a lot of the more negative applications on that. So that's kind of where I think a lot of the quintessential horrific experiences that people have, you know, with the grays is because they're kind of in a sense contracted to kind of do that on purpose, you know, for one reason or another, as opposed to the ones who are more sentient, who will be more respectful and will, you know, try to make the experience, you know, enjoyable. I mean, it's their humor in a sense is pretty funny sometimes because it's different. I mean, and one of the experience, for instance, when I had astrally, one of the times when I was awake and I didn't really feel like getting into anything too serious. So I was in my mind, I was literally just kind of creating the local atmosphere and locality here, and just kind of landscape and flying over it. Just, you know, I thought from all rights and purposes, it was my home projection. I knew on purpose I did this. This is, you know, my own little reality that I'm making. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like through like this like scope or something, a little gray was kind of looking like at me, like above me in the dream. And I'm kind of like, whoa. I'm like, okay. And so I know I'm dreaming. I know this is my dream. And I'm like, I didn't invite aliens in this one. So I'm like, why is this little protrusion coming into my dream? And so like what I do is I essentially project into their telescope, and I'm kind of looking at them through this little bubble now. And they're looking at me, you know, up through their little, I don't know what it was. It could have just been symbolic too, but I was kind of just projecting. And I'm like, yep, there was an alien looking at me. And it's looking at me. And it's kind of laughing. And then I'm back in my own little canyon there that I'm flying through. And then it's kind of looking at me like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I don't want anything, man. I'm just having fun here is what I'm telepathically saying to it. And it kind of looks at me and like really? And I'm kind of like telepathically, yes. I'm like totally like, don't have any questions for you right now, ET person. And they're like, okay. And they made this sort of like cartoon looking energy wave for me to sort of surf down the canyon in. And, so then I looked at it and I'm like, all right, thanks. And then I took back off into my relaxing dream state, because yeah, sometimes dream states for me could be just as busy or more busy than here, you know, working on websites or something. And like I said, that's one of those examples where it just happens, like, you know, sometimes when, you know, and sometimes you don't really have anything profound to ask, I guess, especially if you asked a lot of stuff already. And so those things, those are one of the experiences of kind of cool like that. And then one of the other sort of examples of their type of humor that I remember pretty vividly, because it was just funny, and it's kind of like when someone does like they're trying to be funny, but it isn't like super funny, you know, but like they did a good job trying. It was kind of like one of those scenarios. And this is when, actually, I think it's sort of been 2009 or 10, is when I actually first got introduced to an energy psychology technology or protocol called Psyche. Bruce Lipton, people who are familiar with his work, he helped consult with this type of method and protocol. And it's really neat. It helps balance a lot of things in our subconscious, and helps relieve stuff in our body, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of like Reiki in a lot of ways too, but working and affirmations and all that kind of put together in a certain way. But either way, so I was learning this, and I was just getting done, you know, with my dream experience for the day. And it was like the little grays, they made this like doorway for me to come home to that was decorated with like a little cartoon, like a little caricature of them on one side, like kind of like going, yay, and then like symbols of me, like, you know, the car I had at the time, and, you know, what I was doing. And then across it said, you're bringing light and help to everyone, or something like that. And I'm like, all right, not bad, guys. That's nice little setup there. You know, it's kind of like almost like a little graduation post, kind of coming home to. And so this is kind of where I think a lot of people, you know, in a sense, are afraid of the grays. Like this is some of the experiences I'm sharing, you know, to let you know that yeah, they're not all they're not all bad. It's not all probing, and yeah, they're around quite a bit. And same thing with some of these light beings, they're around quite a bit. So and you can, in a sense, contact them if you want to, and just set up the way you like to have it happen, and for what purpose, actually, even, you know, that actually makes it even better. But yeah, I know my time's almost up here, and it's been really cool, and actually it's been fun hearing everyone else's experiences too. I do have a website too. You know, be sure to check out theholotree.com. That's THEHOLOTREE.com. Have different things like our even organite pendants that we make that have, you know, our frequency treated organite that also has stones embedded in them. This is a fluorite, for instance. And so I'll have very, you know, stuff to help balance your bioelectric field, essentially. And then also, like I mentioned, the technology to help reduce pollution for the cars. That essentially is a type of, it's organite. It really is. It's organite. And we got a patent on it and everything. And we do a certain type of frequency treatment to it that makes it do the specific things we do. So, and then of course, if you have any questions, just personally, you can find me on Facebook, etc. And you know, great talking to everybody, really.
Thank you, man. And you're going to be a vendor at our conference in October too. And what are you going to have at your booth?
We'll also have, you know, the pendants, once again, the talismans. We'll also have our no-nox box, and we also have, you know, our Reiki services too. We just started OC Shamanic Reiki. We do distance Reiki as well too, so for those who aren't in the local Southern California area. And then we'll also have our friends, you know, Quantum Stones there too, so they do something similar, and so we like to team up. So, yeah, so feel free to drop by there too, and, you know, ask me any questions, chat up, whatever, and I'll be happy to tell you more about our technology, etc. So, cool.
For everybody listening, Jerry, I actually met you in, was it 2008?
It was, yeah, it's been like 10 years now. Yeah.
2008 at the first Awaken Aware conference?
Well, the first Awaken was 2011, but I think we might have met like before that too, because like there's a lot of stuff around here. You know, so
2011 is where like we hung out and we talked, and you were helping with Project Camelot.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you've been like really doing a lot of work in this field for quite some time. And dude, we stayed friends for a long time.
Yeah, that's been quite a while. It's fun to be able to say that.
So I'm excited to see you at the conference, brother, and maybe we can hang out sometime before the event.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Okay, man. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Goodbye. All right, everybody. So thank you all so much for joining us today. This was awesome. And so definitely we're going to do this over and over again. I think right now I'll start it monthly, and we'll do one in September. If you guys are interested, please do email me, info@portaltoascension.org, if you want to share your experience. And if you want to just talk about your awakening story, I'm going to do that too. We're going to have our solo awakening experience webinar where everyone will have like 15 minutes. We'll have people back to back discussing their how they woke up, how they got into this information. You know, like from me, it was trying to find the root of all religion, finding about Anunnaki, finding about ETs, becoming very linear minded and scientific. And that's kind of how I found consciousness. So I want to have people, give people the opportunity to also express, you know, how they became or found out about what they know now. That's about it, guys. Thank you all so much for joining me and spending your Friday. We love you very, very much. Please check out our website, portaltoascension.org, if you want to sign up and receive updates on all the stuff that we're doing. Love you. Have a beautiful night. And I'm going to leave you with the conference trailer one more time as we fade out. So thanks, everybody. Talk later. Bye-bye.